Welcome and thank you for being here as we mourn the death of Trish Beckjord and celebrate her life. To live in this world, we all must accept that we will have to die. To love what is alive, we must accept having to lose what we've made precious through our care and love. To be fully and fiercely human, we must accept having to be breakable and sometimes broken. When we stop to notice how someone else's life gave us a path and a little light to see by, it encourages us to help carry that light forward. Though each of us carries forth in this world only a small flame, we know that the ability of that light to brighten the world depends upon the many others who learn to walk with it in their hearts. From the time she was a young child, Trish always experienced a deep and profound relationship with the natural world. In it, she found peace, wonder, and a connection to something larger than herself alone. This poem, part 3 of 3 elegiac poems by Wendell Berry, a favorite of Trish's, beautifully expresses that sense of calm and connection that remains even after death. He goes free of the earth. The sun of his last days sets clear in the sweetness of his liberty. The earth recovers from his dying, the hallow of his life remaining in all his death leaves. Radiances know him. Grown lighter than breath, he is set free in our remembering. Grown brighter than vision, he goes dark into the life of the hill that holds his peace. He's hidden among all that is and cannot be lost. I light our chalice with these words. For this hour, as we remember and celebrate the great light that Trish Beckjord brought into this world, may this flame remind us of that radiance and the ways in which it made our own lives grow brighter. We invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing Blue Boat Home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. holding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Please be seated. Earlier this year, I led a class here at the church that I called Planning Your Own Memorial Service. It was the first time I'd done that. My purpose in developing and offering the course really was twofold. First, I wanted to give people a chance to look back over their lives and have a sort of open and honest way of looking at both the blessings that they've experienced as well as the struggles, and sharing those experiences with a small group of others. Secondly, I wanted to have some material to use if and when I planned memorial services for these participants, so I wouldn't have to start from scratch, as is sometimes the case. Because Trish was one of the participants in this class, as we were putting together this memorial service, it felt a little bit like we were cheating, because she chose every piece of music that's included in the service today, including that lovely Bill Evans piece that we heard earlier, every reading and poem that you hear today. And she provided a wealth of reflections on her life experiences and the wisdom that she found along the way. So Trish is still bestowing gifts upon us. Trish joined this congregation right in the middle of the pandemic lockdown. She had moved to Pittsburgh to be near family, and she wanted to start building community right away. So she made sure there was a Unitarian Universalist congregation nearby where she lived, as she had been a very active and involved member of the UU congregation in Geneva, Illinois, and elsewhere. She joined our choir when our choir was completely in virtual mode. So even before she met anyone in person at this congregation, Trish was making videos of herself singing at home and sending them in to Mary, our choir director, who, with a team of others, edited all of those videos together to create these beautiful virtual choir pieces. She took our membership class online via Zoom and became involved in other groups at the church that were also virtually only at first. When we finally did meet Trish in person, she was already well on her way to being a fully involved member of this church. In the fall of 2021, Sunnyhill member Judy Spiegel led a 6-week discussion group on the book Finish Strong, Putting Your Priorities First at Life's End by Barbara Coombs Lee. Trish took part in this class, I believe, although it wasn't until the following spring that she was diagnosed with cancer. In a series of conversations with Trish over the last year or so, and in the class that I led, she shared with me many of the details of her life. She talked about growing up as a first-wave baby boomer, both of her parents having served in the military during World War II. Trish's dad trained as an electrical engineer and worked for Westinghouse in sales and middle management, which is, I believe, what brought them to the Pittsburgh area from Minnesota. Trish's mom didn't have a college degree and didn't work outside the home, but was very involved in community activities, such as serving as president of the Presbyterian Women's Association for Church, volunteering with the PTA, and writing Braille for the blind. It seemed to Trish that her mom was always looking for something fulfilling to do, but it didn't quite seem like she ever found it. Trish remembered her dad being very driven by his concern of the perspective of others and being honest and hardworking. He raised me, Trish said, to be honest and take responsibility for my actions. She said, I can still hear him today saying, "Punky," short for pumpkin. Old Will Shakespeare used to say, "To thine own self be true, and thou shalt not be false to any man." And Trish suggested we include this quote in her memorial service. Growing up, Trish felt that half of her life was characterized by activities related to being part of an upwardly mobile family. Membership at the Edgewood Country Club, prime rib dinners at the University Club, regular visits to the Carnegie Museum, while the other half of her life was very much grounded in the grittier, more working class surroundings of the town of Clairton, PA. But it was the family trips to northern Minnesota that oriented Trish toward the world of nature. In her words, summer vacations at Nana's cabin in the northern Minnesota woods connected me to my true self and instilled my tremendous love of the natural world. It had a wonderful outhouse we called the Hoo-Hoo House, an iron stove in the kitchen, along with a hand water pump and a beautiful porch across the back that sometimes still let in mosquitoes. Trish continues, swimming, fishing, and catching walleye, and experiencing total freedom to lie on the dock, feeling the heat of the wood on your legs as you looked for bloodsuckers and other small fish. Rowing, smelling the north woods, and hearing the waves slap against the little rowboat. All of these said summer and nature to me. Trish went on to say, I still have Nana's button box and remember sitting in the sun on the sun porch stringing buttons. Nana had a beautiful garden at the house, which was written up in House and Garden, I think. And while I don't remember pies, I do remember fresh rhubarb, eaten raw and dipped in sugar. She says Lake Superior sparkled like diamonds in the sun and had the most amazing rocks. We have some of those rocks here today, and you'll have a chance later on to take one with you as a memento. One of the poems Trish asked to include in this service was Going to Walden by Mary Oliver, in part, I think, because of her memories of northern Minnesota as her own personal Walden, which she internalized and carried with her always. Here is that poem. It isn't very far as highways lie. I might be back by nightfall, having seen the rough pines and the stones and the clear water. Friends argue that I might be wiser for it. They do not hear that far-off Yankee whisper, how dull we grow from hurrying here and there. Many have gone and think me half a fool to miss a day away in the cool country. Maybe, but in a book I read and cherish, going to Walden is not so easy a thing as a green visit. It is the slow and difficult trick of living and finding it where you are. Trish's first career was in blood banking. She trained at the National Institutes of Health Clinical Center Hospital Blood Bank in Washington, D.C., and then held positions at Duke University Medical Center in North Carolina and at Mass General Hospital in Boston. After years in blood banking, Trish began working in medical technology positions, first at Cooper Biomedical and then at Abbott Laboratories. Both of these jobs, I believe, involved a great deal of public speaking, making presentations, and travel. While Trish was successful in all of these professional positions, she did not necessarily feel fulfilled by them. As she put it, corporate management is very political and very competitive, and I was less than happy. After 8.5 years at Abbott, I couldn't see my way toward working there or with a similar company for the rest of my working life. She goes on, every night I came home and changed clothes, I felt as though I became a different person. So I began exploring a new career and ended up going back to school at the University of Michigan for a master's degree in landscape architecture. It felt like I was coming home. Trish was 43 when she entered this graduate school program, and it ended up being absolutely right for her. As she said, I had thought about changing careers over time, though not in much detail, but as I looked at it, I had about 20 more years to work before retiring, so if I was going to change, now was the time. As it ended up, I worked until I was 72, and making the change ultimately led me to where it was best for me to be for the working time I had remaining. Trish found a great deal of fulfillment in the landscape architecture career that enabled her to work with the natural world, which had always been her primary source of inspiration and connection and spiritual depth. What an amazing gift it is to find a career and a way of living that makes you feel that at long last you're coming home. Most of my in-depth conversations occurred with Trish after she was diagnosed with late-stage pancreatic cancer last year. Her initial challenge was dealing with the shock of the diagnosis. Then it became learning how to live with cancer. And finally, when and how to make the decision to discontinue further treatment. In all phases of these discussions, Trish was thoughtful, engaged, and curious. She was not interested in living in denial of anything. She was more focused on what to do with whatever time she had. In response to my question, what are the things that matter most to you now? She wrote the following: dying a good death, living my life as fully as I can for the time I have left, learning how not to be afraid of this process, but open myself to it as best I can. Second, enjoying good, meaningful relationships with new and existing friends, keeping things going as fully as I'm able. And finally, being open to the blessings of a caring, giving family, what I can receive from them and what I can give to them. It occurs to me that she accomplished each of these things and did so with a good deal of grace. It was a real privilege for me to have known Trish and to have been a small part of her journey over these past 2 or 3 years. She was a remarkable person in every way, someone who looked not just at the surface of things, but engaged more deeply, always following her own curiosity and passions. And as we can see today, building a great deal of community with others along the way. I'd like to leave you with just a few of the things that Trish wrote in response to another question that I asked about important life lessons that she wanted to pass on to others. She said, in part, "Life is not always fair, but that's okay. Don't let it drag you down. Keep working toward your goals even when you're not sure what they are. Always be curious and engage with life. Notice the details. Let them amaze you. Treat others kindly. One day it may be you. And there is love in the world. Keep yourself open to giving and receiving it." There is love in the world. Perhaps the best way we can honor Trish is to keep ourselves open to giving and receiving that love in every way that we can. To paraphrase a Wendell Berry poem, The Peace of Wild Things, which we'll hear in a few minutes, in remembering Trish, may each of us come into the peace of wild things, knowing as we do that Trish rests in the grace of the world and is free. May it be so. Amen. We'll now have some thoughts and remembrances, first from Trish's nephew, Steve, and then her niece, Ellen.
Thank you. I'm reading a belief statement that Trish wrote many years ago when she was a member of the Geneva UU Church living in St. Charles, Illinois. Many of us go through life thinking that we clearly know what we believe, but putting it down on paper and being articulate about it is a hard thing. I believe the natural world has always been my spiritual home. It is where I find refuge and peace, and where my sense of connectedness to something larger than myself is strongest. Being within the natural world, open to its essence, its layers of life, is where I am centered and whole. Because of this, our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, rings true in the deepest part of my being. When my father died, I scattered his ashes in the Gulf of Mexico according to his wishes. We had never talked much about our individual spiritual beliefs, but somehow the act seemed to be one of releasing him home to the larger world. It was an experience in which I was touched by the grace that, within me, honored that connection to something larger than myself that I always felt. Wendell Berry, one of my favorite writers, always says things better than I. He wrote, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars, waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free."
Hello. This is a eulogy Trish asked her best friend, Carolyn Albertson, to write as part of planning this memorial service. Carolyn is very sad that she can't be here in person today, though she's with us virtually, and I'm going to read this on her behalf. My early thoughts of you are about a fashion magnet who could pull together outfits and ensembles I would never have dreamed of, the art fair maven. I'll never forget you putting together a deep purple skirt and jacket with a bright golden blouse. I was blown away by your style and color sophistication. Then, of course, there is the question of good food. Eating out together has always been fun and wonderful, as your enjoyment matches my own, but the real joy has always been cooking with you. I was so impressed with your gourmet magazine dishes and your expertise in the kitchen. When you roasted the skin off a red pepper using the gas burner, it taught me that I really needed to learn my way around the kitchen a bit better. You are an outstanding cook, fearless in trying difficult recipes and always willing to share them with others. You have seen me through many trials and tribulations, as well as happy times, many of which were spent with you. Do you remember our trip to Door County? I could not believe it when I saw you packing a skillet for that trip. I would say that you are a skilled, fun-to-be-with traveler. Skillets, cats, spices, whatever. But through all of this and more, you are a thoughtful and caring listener. I have always felt that I could tell you anything and not lose your respect for and care of me. That is truly a wonderful gift to me and others for whom you do the same. Some of those single-word adjectives may be used here: honest, loyal, trustworthy, and socially conscious. Then there is one of the most unbelievable traits to my way of thinking, and that is the tremendous amount of courage, boldness, fearlessness, and inner strength that you demonstrated when at 43 years old you left a high-paying job to embark on a second career starting from scratch. I am still in awe of you for that. To sell your home, leave a job, go back to school, and live in another state with no income for 3 years, aside from weekend work and renting out a room in your newly purchased home, and not knowing anyone from there as well. It still blows my mind. Courage is not a big enough word for it, but you made it work and you followed your dream, and the world is a better place because of it. All the people you have taught about nature and plants. And so we talk about the plants. I cannot go out into my yard without thinking of you. You are everywhere. The wild geranium, the bee balm, the marsh marigold that just won't take, the grasses which I'm begrudgingly coming to appreciate, the Virginia water creeper, black-eyed Susans, serviceberry milkweed, and so much more. You planted with me and gave me instructions how to plant on my own. You have educated me on the value and beauty of native plants, and I, in turn, have shared what little I know with many others, and that is how it begins, bringing back a natural, healthy environment. You are a truly educated, passionate advocate, crusader, champion, and steward of our land. What a wonderful legacy. You have left your mark on many a plot, wetland, yard, and heart, especially mine. I love you so, Carolyn. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I have just a few remarks. First, on behalf of Trish and our family, I want to thank you so much for being here today, in person or virtually. Trish was a master community builder, and the ways in which her community, especially here at Sunnyhill and at Asbury Heights, cared for her and embraced her, especially after her diagnosis of cancer, was just wonderful and such a blessing to Trish and all who loved her. Second, I want to share a quick story that exemplifies how Trish navigated her diagnosis of pancreatic cancer and says a lot about who she was as a person. A few weeks ago, at her last appointment with her palliative care provider, Sue Jessel, before transitioning to hospice, Trish shared some concern that her primary care doctor had told her that she likely had less than 6 months to live. And Sue very skillfully asked Trish, "Well, what were you thinking?" And Trish said, "I guess I wasn't thinking about it at all." Trish faced her diagnosis head on. She was decisive and organized and intentional, but she wasn't thinking about dying. She was thinking about living. And I find that to be as remarkable as the woman Trish was. This is verse 52 from Walt Whitman's Song of Myself. "The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. The last scud of day holds back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest, and true as any on the shadowed wilds, it coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in eddies and drift it in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles." And I want to pause here for just a moment to say that those 5 words, "if you want me again," are such a miracle in this poem, because Whitman does 2 incredible things here. He gives us a simple yet perfect description of grief. We want you again. But by posing it as a question, he acknowledges that with time, our pain eases, and he invites us to enter into the space in which our hearts heal. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you.
Trish's friend Jim will now share another poem that Trish had chosen for this service.
Thank you, Ellen and Steve, so much for the opportunity to read this poem in honor of my friend. I first met Trish when she was 15, and I was 2 years older. Not more mature, just older. And our paths intersected a lot in the 70s through the early 2000s. Less so after that, but we kept in close touch. So the poem that she chose, Wild Geese, by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I'll tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Thank you.
As Mary and I sing this next song, Breaths, by Say Barnwell of the group Sweet Honey in the Rock, we invite anyone who wishes to do so to come forward, light a candle in honor of the great light that Trish brought into this world, and place it in the sand before returning to your seat.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
We invite you again to rise in body and or spirit as we sing our hymn, For the Earth Forever Turning.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish
Please be seated. In just a moment, we will adjourn to the fellowship hall where there will be refreshments and an opportunity to share more memories of Trish with one another, and we do hope that you will stay. Also, we encourage you to take a rock from one of the baskets that you can find at the back of the sanctuary or in the fellowship hall, which are from Trish's personal collection in remembrance of Trish and her love of the earth. For now, I offer this poem, also chosen by Trish, I Am Not There. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints in snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. As you awake with morning's hush, I am the swift up-flinging rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the day transcending night. Do not stand by my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. When asked what she would want people to remember about her, Trish said these 4 things. Always curious, took risks, loved the earth, and tried to keep an open, loving, welcoming heart. As we end this service and move back into our day-to-day lives, may each of us honor Trish by striving ourselves to be curious, to take risks, to love the earth, and to keep an open, loving, welcoming heart. Go in peace.